welcome to you all, and thanks for tuning in for today's presentation, and more importantly, the discussion that will follow about the Interagency Arctic Research Policy Committee's draft Arctic Research Plan, covering the time period 2017 to 2021, which is in the Federal Register comment period until August 22nd. As Martin said, we've convened the webinar to address your questions. This portion will include an overview of the purpose of the Interagency Arctic Research Policy Committee, followed by a short summary of the plan. We hope this overview will motivate and focus your feedback for the plan's final revision, as Martin said, that will follow. There's never been a more urgent time to study Arctic change and to advance our understanding of how these changes will impact society. A scan of some key Arctic vital signs illustrate broad and persistent warming, including air temperature increases that are twice as large as the global average, a steady decline in summertime Arctic sea ice extent since the beginning of the satellite record in 1979, and dramatic mass loss from the Greenland ice sheet documented by GRACE satellite since its launch in 2002. Similar dramatic changes are documented in records of permafrost, snow cover extent, and more. The impacts of these changes are felt in ecosystems and the built environment, with compounding impacts on human societies. Some examples shown here. The impacts of sea ice loss on ice-dependent species like walrus, who haul out to shore when sea ice hunting and resting platforms disappear, causing stress to the population. The impact of warming oceans and melting glaciers seen in the sea level rise record, with implications for coastal communities around the globe. And the impacts of warmer air temperatures and broad system changes on things like wildfire and coastal erosion, which directly impact Alaskans. Images like these urge us to understand changes in the components of the Arctic system and to understand how the system is changing as a whole. It further compels us to improve our understanding of human adaptation and resilience under social and environmental change. The information on these images also tells another story, a story of multiple federal agencies engaged in related efforts to understand Arctic change and its potential impacts on society. This federal agency story motivated Congress in 1984 to pass the Arctic Research Policy Act, which created the IARPC and its sister organization, the U.S. Arctic Research Commission. The IARPC is comprised of principals from 16 federal agencies. Waiting for my slow motion video there, shown in the table, with a mandate from Congress to collaborate on Arctic research planning and to coordinate these efforts with outside partners, like the state of Alaska, academia, indigenous communities, industry, and more. IARPC's mandate is essentially to make the whole of the U.S. Arctic research enterprise greater than the sum of its agency parts. IARPC implements this mandate with the help of IARPC collaborations, a vast network of the outside partners just described. In this diagram, the federal portion of IARPC is literally the tip of the iceberg for Arctic collaboration. The portion below the waterline, combining feds and non-feds, is currently organized around a structure of 12 collaboration teams that have been active since 2013 to implement the thematic areas of our current plan. If you haven't already, we invite you to visit the website and join the nearly 1,000 members of this collaborative enterprise. A critical part of IARPC's congressional mandate is to create an interagency 5-year plan for Arctic research that describes how agencies will work together on research challenges. As with our current plan, the plan we describe today does not cover everything the federal government is undertaking in Arctic research. Rather, it focuses on those areas where interagency collaboration will add value. IARPC has spent the last year developing this new plan, starting with a review phase that began a year ago, where a group evaluated the lessons learned from our current plan and reviewed dozens of key documents to inform our next plan. This review resulted in a set of recommendations to inform this plan's scope. Federal and non-federal partners were invited to a scoping workshop which followed in December to help us identify the most critical areas for agency collaboration for the FY17 to 21 timeframe. The plan scope, shaped through this input, was approved by the IARPC principals earlier this spring, along with their recommendations that we complete the plan during the current administration. In response, we assembled writing teams and developed a series of mechanisms such as listening sessions and online input through our website for soliciting ideas from the broader community for the plan's content, which has led us to the draft in the Federal Register today. Martin also mentioned our writing teams, and we want to express our particular gratitude to them for their tremendous effort. You can see by the 30 names and 15 agencies listed that the construction of this draft was in and of itself an impressive interagency achievement. We thank the authors and the countless others who provided their timely input during the drafting phase. I'll turn to the plan's organization now. There are several organizational aspects of the plan we'd like to define and describe to help orient you to its structure. They include policy drivers, research goals, research objectives, performance elements, and guiding principles. I'll begin with the policy drivers. Our plan is policy-driven, which means that the research described herein identifies critical areas where the U.S. research enterprise supports U.S. policy from community to global scale. The 4 policy drivers for the plan are: enhance the well-being of Arctic residents. Oops, sorry, that scooted away kind of fast. Advance the stewardship of the Arctic environment. Strengthen national and regional security. And improve understanding of the Arctic as a component of planet Earth. These policy drivers support the nation's Arctic region policy and its implementation through the National Strategy for the Arctic Region. Later, we'll illustrate how the actions in this plan support one or more of these policy drivers. For the rest of our plan organization, actions within the plan are organized under 3 tiers of increasing detail. These are research goals, broad topics where an interagency approach can accelerate progress. The plan identifies 9 of these. Research objectives, specific challenge areas that address the research goal. Each goal is supported by 2 or more of these research objectives. Performance elements, tasks with concrete measurable outcomes that demonstrate progress made towards satisfying the research objective. Each objective is supported by 2 or more of these elements. Some important points to emphasize related to the performance elements. We describe them as budget neutral, which means that they are planned and funded agency activities. The plus up through IARPC is the visible role that collaboration plays. Performance elements are based on multiple agency contributions, except in rare cases where a critical and catalytic activity, such as the launch of a satellite like ISAT-2, has been identified. Lead or co-lead agency roles are identified under each performance element to indicate which agency will lead coordination and reporting. Performance elements, we have lost our screen. Did we lose our audio as well?
We are having some people saying that sound is fading in and out. So we might want to keep trying to talk to the microphone.
Okay. Should I stand up? Sure. Okay. Our microphones are over our head. Okay, well, I hope everyone can hear me better now. Okay, so I was talking about our performance elements, leaving off with the note that the performance elements are for the FY17-18 time period and will be updated as needed. Next, I'll provide some greater detail on our research goals and demonstrate how the tiered approach I described earlier helped us build a dynamic plan. Our first research goal, enhance understanding of health determinants and improve the well-being of Arctic residents. Goal 2, advance process and system understanding of the changing Arctic atmosphere, composition and dynamics, and the resulting changes to surface energy budgets. Goal 3, enhance understanding and improve predictions of the changing Arctic sea ice cover. Goal 4, increase understanding of the structure and function of Arctic marine ecosystems and their role in the climate system and advance predictive capabilities. Goal 5, understand and project the mass balance of mountain glaciers and the Greenland ice sheet and their consequences for sea level rise. Goal 6, advance understanding of processes controlling permafrost dynamics and the impacts on ecosystems, infrastructure, and climate feedbacks. Goal 7, advance an integrated landscape-scale understanding of Arctic terrestrial and freshwater ecosystems and the potential for future change. Goal 8, strengthen coastal community resilience and advance stewardship of coastal natural and cultural resources by engaging in research related to the interconnections of people and natural and built environments. And Goal 9, enhance frameworks for environmental intelligence gathering, interpretation, and application towards decision support. We described earlier that the Arctic Research Plan is a policy-driven plan, which means it's responsive to the 4 Arctic policy drivers spanning spatial scales from local to global issues. Each research goal within the plan supports 2 or more of these policy drivers through its research objectives. Some research objectives are responsive to more than one policy driver. This image provides a succinct snapshot of how the 34 research objectives in the plan collectively support the drivers through efforts that inform resilience of Arctic residents or through the environmental modeling and prediction capacities that enhance national security. We encourage you to explore the details of these intersections as you review the plan. The goals identified for this plan build upon our experiences with our current plan, particularly in considering the linkages between components of the Arctic system. This wheel diagram demonstrates this through representing each of the 9 goals as part of an integrated whole. 8 research goals are shown as wedges, while environmental intelligence, through its emphasis on system integration and tools for decision support, ties each wedge together at the center. The following examples will show how research objectives within individual goals are linked to those in other goals. For example, we know that the Arctic atmosphere plays an important role in driving changes to the cryosphere, snow, ice, and permafrost, through energy exchanges. Objective 2.1, under the atmosphere goal, draws together federally sponsored efforts to improve understanding of these energy exchanges and to better integrate them with cryospheric process understanding. In turn, the sea ice goal, the glaciers goal, and the permafrost goal each include a research objective to address process understanding through integrating atmospheric, oceanic, terrestrial, and other drivers of cryospheric change. These efforts across the components of the system are in turn linked to Arctic system modeling efforts organized under the Environmental Intelligence Goal. Further examples will show how other system-wide processes related to food webs, the carbon cycle, and hydrology are similarly linked across this plan, and how process understanding is linked to understanding impacts on social systems. We've not attempted to catalog all of these linkages, but expect that many of these opportunities will be explored through IARPC collaborations as we implement this plan over the next 5 years. Earlier, we mentioned that our plan is based around some important guiding principles which are critical to the successful conduct of Arctic research. These include support for a portfolio of research activities that goes beyond basic disciplinary research, sustained long-term observations and mechanisms to provide timely and efficient access to data, the inclusion of indigenous knowledge holders and northern residents versed in local ecological knowledge as generators of and participants in research, and international collaborations that strengthen research in a variety of ways. The next two examples will show how these principles are visible within the plan. The first relates to the role of indigenous and local ecological knowledge, abbreviated as IK and LEK here. Several objectives within the plan explicitly seek to engage with these systems of knowledge. For example, the health and well-being goal includes several research objectives where partnerships with indigenous knowledge holders and LEK participants inform health and management decisions. Many of these efforts are carried out in partnership with the Alaska Native Tribal Health Consortium and other tribal partners. In goals 4 and 7, the marine and terrestrial ecology goals, subsistence hunters play a vital role in collecting and sharing samples and knowledge in ways that benefit ecological research. While the coastal goal includes knowledge co-production processes and highlights the role of community-based monitoring in coastal areas faced with rapid change. These are a few examples of the ways this plan has begun to include IK and LEK that we hope will continue to develop. The next example concerns our guiding principle related to international collaboration. Examples here include efforts organized under the Arctic Council. Other examples build off of IPY legacy projects and grassroots science networks like the Pacific Arctic Group, or ISOA. Others collaborate through Arctic relevant initiatives organized under the World Climate Research Council, and multilateral partnerships support the GRACE satellite and transboundary studies like NASA's ABOVE. All of the international efforts strengthen research, provide opportunities for improved access to the Arctic, and make the most effective use of costly infrastructure and logistics. We noted earlier that key inputs were used to shape this plan since the scoping phase. I'd like to highlight a few in particular. We mentioned that the Arctic Research Policy Act, the act that created IARPC, also created our sister organization, the U.S. Arctic Research Commission. Their role is to develop recommendations for Arctic research to the federal agencies through their biennial goals and objectives report. The IARPC plan is highly responsive to the report's recommendations concerning Arctic environmental change. Their report also particularly impacted the scope of our health and well-being goal. The state of Alaska is an important partner to IARPC. Several state of Alaska documents were key inputs to our plan, as were summaries provided by state agencies during and after our visit to the state. This is reflected both in our guiding principles, which include a stronger emphasis on applied research, and in new content in the plan. For example, many agencies are interested in the impacts of changing conditions on infrastructure, which is an emerging topic under the plan, as seen under the permafrost and coastal goals. A wealth of guiding information has come from academia in the last few years, including the Academy's study Arctic in the Anthropocene and recent large science meetings. And in this vein, agency-specific Arctic strategies like those produced by NOAA, USGS, and the Coast Guard are also very helpful. And finally, the new national strategy for the Arctic region and its implementation plan have better shaped the space in which IARPC coordinates research. We hope this overview of the plan structure was informative and guides you towards making your comments. The plan will be available online at globalchange.gov, hosted by our partners at the U.S. Global Change Research Program until August 22nd. It is currently the only plan hosted on their review site. In order to comment, you will need to create an account. We understand there's been some bugs with some participants who have tried to create accounts, which is related to specific operating systems and specific browsers, and we're responding on a case-by-case basis, but USGCRP is also working to fix the bug. Once you create an account, you can provide comments to this document as a whole or by chapter, and you can also click here to get a template to download to write your comments offline, and then this must be emailed back to us. We'd again like to thank all of the authors of this plan for their concerted efforts, and additionally to thank you, our partners, who continue to support the broader success of IARPC collaborations. We look forward to your questions and comments.